trickle in. We had technical difficulties due to me not putting in my monitoring headphones. I was getting an echo, and so I couldn't continue. So we'll let people filter in. Like I've said many times, this stream is a work in progress, okay? And I'm still, picking up what I want and how I can, present this whole thing. And I'll tell you, it's been an education so far. All right. Now, in my last attempt at streaming, I said, "Welcome to the Tribal Forum. I am Michael Noland, your humble tribe master." All right. As deigned by you folks. Through so many comments over the last 3 years, it's been incredible. And tonight, what I wanted to do is cover two current stories in rock, as well as what is, well, really the main event of tonight's stream. Okay, so I do want to, and I'm just going to be yammering here, folks, to give people the opportunity. Hey, there you go. All right, I see Kimberly up, so we're up and running. That's good to know. That's good to know. Oh, and by the way, I do want to thank everybody who has been gifting the channel. Super thanks. And, I did want to mention something. If you do that during a live stream, Kimberly will make sure that I see that, and of course, I'm set up to better see all of your responses. And if you have a question or a suggestion or just an opinion, I'll bring it up and I'll directly respond to you. Okay, just my way of saying thank you for your financial support. But if you don't have what it takes to financially support the channel, you can always just view the videos that I do or give them a thumbs up. Every 50 thumbs up I get, folks, a bump happens, and the live feed jumps to more and more home pages, right? And that's good. And it's not just good for me. It's actually good for you folks, because I wanted to talk about, and like I said, I'm just tap dancing here a bit, folks, to get everybody a chance to get back on over here, I'll tell you one thing. I need to kind of call up my own show here, I guess, huh? That would be a nice thing. But I was going to say something about what the Tribal Forum is. Isaac Asimov and his excellent series, the Foundation series. I read that. Well, I've read that series of books so many times, it's ridiculous. That and Lord of the Rings, but there is a second foundation, and these are a group of mentalists capable of great things and everything. And their first speaker, who is kind of generally recognized as their leader, has no more power than anybody else at the governing table, right? That other than he speaks first. And that's kind of by necessity what I do here. I have to bring up a subject. I'm the instigator, right? And then you find folks, when you respond with your comments, either here on the live stream, or maybe you will see this stream later. I monitor those comments and I try to get back to as many of you as I possibly can. So that's what this is all about. And the main event tonight that we'll get to before I'm eventually through here is I will be covering the top 25 rock gods, rock guitarists, rock guitar players of classic rock as chosen by you fine folks. Now, I did this once before on the greatest rock bands, but I held off the top three spots as Tribe Master and deigned that the Beatles would be number one, Led Zeppelin number two, and Pink Floyd number three. But I gave the rest of the list over to you folks, and that list is on my channel page. You go to my channel page, just click more, and you'll see it there. I even dedicate that list to you folks there. Another list that will be on that same page is the top 25 rock guitarists of classic rock, and it will be the list that you created. All right. Now, all I did was make about 57 suggestions. All right. When I put this together. Now, I may have to go and get some chapstick here. Uh, now, as a matter of fact, I'm going to do that as everybody's filtering in. And I hate having something hanging over my head, folks. Sorry about this. But anyway, I did want to say that what we're going to do. Oh, my goodness, I look purty now. My goodness, smack, smack. Wonderful. Um, what I wanted to say is this time I didn't hold any guitarists off the list or guitarists who couldn't be on that list. I gave in that 57 that I suggested, a lot of those were my favorite. And I made it clear that those bands or those guitarists I thought should be at the very tip top of the list. But I let you guys decide. You could have torpedoed any one of those guitars at any time. Over 10,000 votes for this last series of polls in what 2.5 days? Is that since I did the nominating process in my last stream, folks? All right, so let's get on to this first story here. And of course, when I had to restream here, I need to reboot, folks. So give me just a moment and we'll do this from Launchpad 1. All right, let's get you up here. See, I'm actually monitoring my channel on another device, and it's always good to see. Let's see what's happening here. If I'm even on. Okay.
Let's see.
Have we got anything? Let's see. I heard a list of inductees this morning and have been power drinking Pepto-Bismol ever since. Okay, that's wonderful. I love that comment. I hope I'm on here now. Now I got to get over to split view and grab my notes, and then we'll get on to this very first story that I wanted to cover tonight. Swish, swish, bang, bang. All right, good. I'm not getting a lot of indication that I know I'm off kilter here. But anyway, how am I doing, folks? Am I coming across live well? Somebody hit in the comments and let me know. All right, because this is looking like I have one comment now, and yet I see on screen that okay. So obviously, I may be on the last stream. How dare they? But I can rectify that quite easily by going to live, clicking on there, 1939 watching. All right, very good. Okay, now we're cooking with gas, folks. All right, so the first story I wanted to cover is that Don Henley has been countersued. Now, I covered this. Matter of fact, the videos I did on this were just absolutely phenomenal as far as views went. One of them hitting 94,000 views, another hitting over 100,000. And it's a big time story, And a lot has happened since I covered that. Don Henley's also since been busted for lip syncing. I've had my criticisms of the whole sphere and residencies and all of that. But the very weird thing that has happened here is, of course, this court case in which he theoretically won, sort of, kind of, and it all involves him doing his. I'm trying to get my both devices on and what's happening here, folks. And so there we go. All right, now we're up and cooking with gas. So it's all over what Don Henley claims to be stolen lyrics. All right. And I think it's from the Hotel California era, these lyrics. And I even question why isn't Don Felder in on this, since he is a co-writer of that one track for sure. But anyway, he, you know, uh, wormed his way in and out of that case. And if you want to know what was going on, go ahead and watch those videos. It'll be in my Eagles playlist. All right. So I guess you could say he won that case. All right. So here in this next thing, or in this current story, I need a little more screen time here. It starts off by saying Glenn Horowitz, a rare books dealer, says they knew the handwritten sheets were legally obtained. All right, because this was the whole thing about how he got those and everything, and it is clear that he legally obtained them with Don Henley's team not providing information. As a matter of fact, it said here, uh, oh, I love this. Then, in a stunning about face, the proceedings were halted after new evidence cast doubt on the charges. Robbins says emails between Henley, Azoff, and their attorney proved that they were aware that Sanders had legally obtained the lyric sheets. Yet they purposefully, and this is in quotes, withheld any discussions or disclosure thereof because they knew it would exculpate the plaintiff Glenn Horowitz and essentially destroy their fraudulent allegations they made about it. All right. And the article goes on to talk about how these emails from Don Henley, there was no doubt that he knew he didn't own those, right? And that was never kind of the way he came off on it. I even was in his corner. I mean, they were his hand written lyrics and everything, but they had, they had been processed legally. They were out of his hands, right? They were no longer his, even legally. And he tried to paint the story that, like, look, I'm just a poor, starving artist. Well, if you can believe that. But, I'm always going to side with an artist getting the rights back to their original work until I see this and that those lyrics, by whatever process, whether it was by Don Henley himself or Glenn Fry and Don Henley as controlling interest or whatever, those documents were no longer legally theirs. And he even attempted to buy back those documents and tried to keep kind of quiet about that. So, my whole, gist of that whole entire case and Don Henley, I mean, the as time goes on, the less and less I like this guy, which is a very sad thing because there was a time that I looked up to him. My God, him and Glenn Fry, the Eagles, one of my favorite bands in rock and roll, even on my original top 13 bands, right? They're no longer there. You guys took care of that. So I think that a lot of you are thinking the same thing or feeling the same way. That what he presents when he opens his mouth, don't necessarily believe the man anymore. I mean, the judge admonished him and his team in the last trial for this bullshit. Okay, so keep that in mind. All right, now the second story I wanted to bring up. Oh boy, I could have done a whole big time video on this one, couldn't I? And that, of course, is the new inductees for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for 2025. There's some good news here and some, well, I'll let you guys decide. First of all, let me blow this up so that I can actually read this. Um, Inductees will include, and here's some good news, folks: Bad Company, Bout Freaking Time, way, way, way overdue. All right. And if they had been inducted a year or two earlier, how much better would have Paul Rogers' Midnight Rose have done? Do you see how important making this list is? Do you wonder why? Well, we'll talk about these folks. There's a certain ilk of folks. All right, I think I've warmed into the stream now. Um, that have usurped the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame with its full permission, by the way, and have used the power of the term rock and freaking roll to bankroll their accounts, to bankroll their hip hop, their rap accounts. They're inside the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. The nominating committee is made up of a lot of hip hop and rap editors of hip hop and rap magazines and online magazines, I guess, and everything. All right, put there on purpose by Jan Winter, and I'm not going to get into my usual Jan Winter tirade. I want to get in through this story. But and the new Rock and Roll Hall of Fame chairman of the board, John Sykes, was put there right there by Jan Winter. Jan Winter, bad guy. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, evil entity. Okay, just in case nobody's picking up on my bottom line. Now, if your opinion's different, please put it in the chat. I'll be getting to the chat a little bit later on, and then this whole stream will become a lot more interactive. All right. Now, Bad Company, of course. Next, Black Crowes. Well deserved, and even not too late in their career. You know, they didn't even get started, until, well into the 90s by the time they were, well, known by everything, and they're deserving. I'm glad to see the Black Crowes in there. They're kind of like the modern extension of the Stones when I hear them. That kind of, they certainly are in that genre. So I'm a sucker for their sound. Joe Cocker, long overdue. All right. Joe Cocker, freaking, magnificent, legendary figure of rock and roll. And Billy Idol, damn right. I think Billy Idol deserves to be in there. All right. And it's a good representation of that new 80s, early 80s sound, especially for him. Now, I'm not saying that's all he's done in his whole career, but that was him at his apex. And just for him at his apex it's like the Police had an apex of 5 years, what, 6 maybe? And Billy Idol, although he didn't end his career, he had his apex time also. And man, he was everywhere on the radio. And I always liked him. I dug him. I have one album by him. So, but anyway, they go on to say other newly announced people will include Chubby Checkers, or Chubby Checker, I should say, and Mexican pop rockers Mana, Outcast, and Fish. All right. Nothing too bad about that. I guess I could live with that. I'm not so sure about Mana. I haven't heard much about them, but maybe they're bigger, to a younger generation or anything. And I don't know what their style is. I didn't have time to look it up before the stream. But so far, okay. Yeah, it's looking promising. But here's where it really gets insane, folks. The field of 14 nominees is filled out by 6 artists who have been nominated but not inducted in recent years. And here's where it gets kind of funky. We've got Oasis, were nominated last year, you know, but they have a shot. Okay. Joy Division. All right. New Order. Don't know much about them. Cyndi Lauper. Okay. Now the cracks are starting to show. All right. Badly. Cyndi Lauper. She's a pop star. All right. But she did have kind of a rock and roll attitude, a rock and roll kind of presentation, more so than the next clown we're going to be talking about. What's that, darling?
I said, girls just want to have fun.
Yeah, she's so right. Girls do just want to have fun. Um, but she's a pop star at best. I wasn't, it's not like the worst nomination that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has ever come up with. But this next one, Mariah Carey. Okay, all right. I've hated Mariah Carey since she first showed up on the screen. My wife loves her voice. My daughter loves her voice. But if I'm in the truck and I'm listening to a more pop oriented station, because that's what it takes to get her stuff to be played, hint, pop artist, right? At best, at, at best. No rock and roll attitude about her whatsoever. She didn't tour with rock bands, you know. She made her bed, she laid in it, you know. She's hip hop, what, slight rap kind of, I don't even know, you know. She makes horrible Christmas albums and gets far too many airplays out of that old raggedy piece of crap. All right. And how in the hell is, I thought we dodged this bullet last year. And here she is again. And here is Cyndi. Boy, they're just not going to let us forget it. You know, you will accept. Now, here's the thing. I do have to say, this field that I'm seeing so far uh, is better than even last year, which was better than the year before. But don't you guys be fooled about this. All right. They're making amends. All right. First of all, they want you to forget about Jan Winter. They've distanced themselves, but they haven't. They haven't done that. They are play distancing themselves from him, taking him off the board, but off the board and leaving his chairman of the board in, and they doing that were also the people who were put in play to begin with by Jan Winter. So if you think that they're trying to start a healing process here by acknowledging more bands, because I can tell you, I would take off some of the, even these other new nominees or older nominees. To tell you the truth, there's other bands that are more deserving that have not gotten in. But I am ecstatic that Bad Company, that's the one. I mean, the Black Rose, yes. Joe Cocker, yes. Billy Idol, all well deserving. I think you guys may not agree, but Bad Company, Paul Rogers is Kimberly's favorite singer in rock and roll. Yeah. That is the one guy. She hears him. She doesn't even have to know the Bad Company cut because she doesn't listen to every album and stuff. But any time she hears his voice, she goes, that man can sing. He has got a sexy ass voice, yes, right? Does. And yes, she's absolutely correct. And Kimberly and I have disagreements. She doesn't like Rod Stewart, I do. But on Paul Rogers, damn, I just saw a very high quality video on YouTube of Paul Rogers with Free doing All Right Now. Thoroughly live, raw. God dang it. That band was awesome. And of course, you have Simon Kirke and Paul Rogers on stages, which is half of Bad Company. As a matter of fact, when Bad Company became Bad Company, they just inculcated the Free songs, certainly All Right Now. But I think even early on, they did a couple of free songs. I mean, it was they're bound by blood. Half of free is half of Bad Company, and it's the same damn half for both bands. So wonderful, wonderful nomination there. Um, I'm not so sure about the rest. I want to hear from you folks. All right. And if you're watching this later, you didn't catch this live, I want to hear from uh, all of you who, type it in. You don't catch it live. Just do a comment. All right. I trip over my tongue all the time here. Like I said, what is this? Number six, my sixth stream. Okay. So don't expect miracles, folks, but I will get better. All right, so let's get off these news items. And once again, shame on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, as far as I'm concerned. All right, so now I'm going to get over. First of all, I just want to say hi to a few people in the chat here. And then we're going to get on to the main event. All right, because this is big, folks. This is big. I can't wait to get to this portion of the stream. All right. Oh boy, a whole lot of you are here. Zombie Rob. No, Zombie, is it Riccio or RCH or Zombie? Anyway, Zombie. Welcome to the chat. AACB Productions. They finally nominated Bad Company and Billy Idol. All right. Excellent, excellent comment. Safe and Sound, Texas. Dave, how are you? You know what, folks? Anytime I hear from a fellow content creator that I support, I always want to give them a shout out. David over at Safe and Sound Texas Audio Excursion. I'm sub to him, and I'd appreciate it if you guys would go on over there. Yeah, you know what? He's got some of the best ears in town. I'll tell you that. I've got decent ears, and I know what to listen to. When he does his whole expose on why this record or this particular song or this recording versus that recording, man, he's got tons of information on that.
JP Salazar gave you $5 and he wants to have your take on Iron Maiden.
We'll get back to the top of this on Iron Maiden. So what do you want to know about Iron Maiden? I am not a major Iron Maiden fan, although I do like their music. All right. See, Mike, your take on Iron Maiden not being there. Oh, God. Okay, good. So I understand the whole question. Of course. Of course. Iron Maiden, my God, they are one of the major bands out there. I mean, whether you're a personal fan. See, I didn't collect their albums back in the day, but I've been listening to a lot of it online since I started this channel. I'm impressed. I love the band. Okay. And I can't believe that they're not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But, it was last year around this time, I did a video uh, of the 100 rock artists that aren't in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, JP. And I'll tell you what happened is since that video, I mean, it's been a full year and a half maybe. Bad Company got nominated, and I think about three others of those on that video. Other than that, the other 97 are still not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. The list of deserving acts, and then they come up with Mariah Carey. I will never understand that. And I'm not saying, like I said, in my own family, I have Mariah. All right, Carrie, fans who love her music. I have to, we decorate the Christmas tree, and I have to listen to her at least once a year, and that's not easy on an old man,
You love it.
So have pity on me, JP. All right. Yeah, and thank you so much for that. That will, as a matter of fact, I'm putting all donations into updating this exact forum. I want to be on a better streaming service. I want to be able to have folks up, all right, I've got a whole list of people, and I want it to be discussion oriented, not where we throw a bunch of facts at you and stuff. Just what do you think of this? You know, with some really, there's some people with, and as a matter of fact, David at Save and Sound Audio Excursions, uh, Texas is in that title somewhere as well. Would be a wonderful addition to this stream anytime he feels like he wanted to be up there. Divining Dragon, good to see you, brother. Who else do we have? Also, Edgy. Yeah, and I hope you saw my comment. Uh, your comment earlier. What was that for? Was that in my announcement? But I saw it and I responded to you, brother. Let's see who else here. Uh, boy, Ian LaBelle. Yes, hello there. And a hello back to you, Ian. Gringo Pines. Gringo and I have been going back and forth for a couple of hours before the stream. And of course, you'll notice I have moderators out there now. And that's kind of a necessity these days. And I'll be adding more, right? So if you see a moderator or a wrench next to some of the commenters, that means that basically, and here's the deal, I haven't mentioned this in a while. If I do make you a moderator, all right, I want you guys to take it easy. With great power comes great responsibility. After all, just see me as Uncle Ben, right? But uh, you know, uh, something unless it's so obviously a wrong thing, some X-rated crap coming across. Uh, Ditch them on out of there. Give them an 86,000 second timeout, right? But something, just give them a nudge, give them a 10-second timeout, then a 5 minute, and then if they perceive, then you can 86,000 second those souls into oblivion. Now it doesn't ban them from the channel; it just bans them from the rest of the stream because that's a 24-hour period. All right, so now I want to get on. Let me see if there's anybody else here. There's so many of you, and I am so far behind, and we had so many difficulty getting there. Adam, good to see you, brother. Adam Finley, this is classic, not punk industrial. I'm not sure what you're talking about there. Maybe I'm missing a earlier conversation, or I'm just dumb and don't get it. How the hell does Mariah Carey end up on the list over Brandon? Yes, you're right. I've been screaming at the walls for the last half hour on it. Let's see, who else is here? Generous G, good to see you. All right, I hadn't seen your comment before. Jason Looper, Tommy Meyer, good evening. Good evening to you, Tommy. Matter of fact, to Generous G as well. Ian LaBelle, who's been just joining recently, has been in all of the chats since then. Who else do we have here? Gosh, there's so many of you. Oh, and of course, I said Tommy Meyer, but greetings to you. Oh, so edgy, of course. And let's see where we're at here. Just making sure I haven't gotten or missed out any latecomers. The reason I do this, folks, is I do want to get a chance. Aaron Davis, great. Good to see you, brother. I think I may have said that. Al Val. Maybe Big Star could get in as influential band. Yeah, there's an argument for it. Many people say, that's one of the greatest bands in rock and roll, short lived, but masterful while it existed and very influential. You're absolutely right. Great point on that. All right. And just to make sure, Anna Maria Delgado. Enough of Mariah. Oh, Anna, you're a being after my own heart. I so agree with you. Good Lord, it's about enough time, huh? Hey, DC Tune Time, good to see ya. Yeah, he's a long time commenter on my channel. Good to see you here tonight, DC. Catherine, hey, so good to see you. I love, I like some of her major hits, yeah. And she's a bigger argument, Catherine, for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame than Mariah. Like I said, she dressed real rock and roll. She always had kind of a rock and roll attitude. Pop rock. I wouldn't call it rock pop, but pop rock, or pop rock, you know. But she makes a hell of a lot more sense, Catherine, than Mariah Carey. I'm just so glad we didn't get six bozos like we have in past recent years all at once, you know. But it does. If I didn't make it clear, keep your eye on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. This is them adjusting, and then get ready for that PC sweep. All right, because it will happen, folks. Plain and simple. All right, so let's get on to the main event, folks. And of course, that is just who are the greatest 25 rock guitarists of all time. Now, in my last stream, I brought up 57 guitarists, right? And you guys brought in not well over 15 or 17 more. Anyway, there were more than 70 guitarists on the list. And then I took a look at everything that you guys were saying in the comments, both during the stream and after the stream. And all those comments were tabulated. All right. And then based on those comments, I either added somebody to my original list that I had and took off. I just started taking off, and all based on not just because I didn't like that band as much as these bands. I started taking off the bands that were getting absolutely no traction. And so basically what we wound up with was a 50-50 list, maybe even a 60-40 list, heavily favoring both of us. Okay, you, the viewers, and me as the instigator of this whole mess. All right, and so the list wound up quite differently. And then I took all of those percentages and I just chopped the bottom producing bands off that list and presented a field of 32 rock and roll, legendary rock and roll guitar gods. All right. Now I'm going to read off who those folks were and what the original list was, because this is the list that came out in, what was it, an 8-part, I believe it was an 8-part poll over on my post page, right? And so this list is the list that we started it off with, all right? Now, this list included Jimmy Page, Stevie Ray Vaughan, David Gilmour, Eric Clapton, Jimi Hendrix, Jeff Beck, Richie Blackmore, Dwayne Allman, Carlos Santana, Brian May, Eddie Van Halen, Tony Iommi, Terry Cass, Robin Trower, B.B. King, Billy Gibbons, Johnny Winter, Prince, Dimebag Darrell, Lindsey Buckingham, Mark Knopfler, Rory Gallagher, Stephen Stills, Joe Bonamassa, Jeff Skunk Baxter, Martin Barr, Randy Rhoads, Steve Vai, Tommy Bolin, Kirk Hammett, Joe Satriani, and Frank Marino from Mahogany Rush. Okay? That was the 32 that made it into the poll. So as we go on to me kind of transcribing about what this poll is and thus giving you the list you voted for, keep it in mind, none of these bands were losers. These were the top 32 out of 70 plus bands. They're all winner bands. So if your favorite band didn't do as well as, say, another band, or as high on the list as you wish, every single one of those bands are winners, and 7 of them didn't make the top 25. All right. So let's talk about the 7 who didn't make the top 25. All right. With a very slim, I should say, 9%, Jeff Skunk Baxter just barely missed it. He is the highest of the 7 who almost made it. So it's it's a it's a sore prize for Jeff Skunk Baxter fans. Martin Bear or Barr, I think it's Barr. Bear? Barr? I always call him Barr. Uh, uh, at 8%, barely being edged out by Jeff Skunk. Now, these percentages is how well they did in their particular heat. All right. And I put every guitarist against every kind of guitarist in here. All right. So everybody had a chance to vote for their favorite guitarist. All right. Plain and simple. Now, the next one up, just being nudged at only, Martin got 8%, Steve Vai got 7%, Tommy Bolin at 6%, Kirk Hammett, I was surprised, at only 6%, and Joe Satriani at 5%, with Frank Marino uh, just, I mean, he barely survived, but he is one of the original winners. Now, remember that at only 3%, which now gets us to the list. All right. So, based on all of that, we're going to start at number 25. All right. Barely making the list, but is one of the top 25 rock god guitarists of all time, Randy Rhoads. Now, in his first heat, he only got 9%, but he was tied, and the tiebreaker was between him and Jeff Skunk, and at that time Martin. Okay, but he Martin wound up with an 8% because I had to deduct a point to explain the additional percentage point that Randy Rhoads got. He got 62% of the tiebreaker. So that's what nudged him in at number 25. At number 24, Joe Bonamassa. And he won his heat of with 10% of the vote. So any of you, Joe Bonamassa, or the next few guitarists I'm going to mention, you're big fans of them and you're sad they're this far down. Think about it. They were well represented. 10% of you, 1 out of 10 of you, voted your conscience. And again, this set and series of polls garnered well over 10,000 votes. And I haven't even looked at it today. It may be beyond that. Huge, huge poll. All right. So at 23, Stephen Stills. Now, I would have put Stephen Stills much higher, personally. Matter of fact, Stephen Stills would be in my top 15, right? But according to you, and I have, agreed to concur with you, this is the list that I and you will live with. This is the list that will be on my channel page. So Stephen Stills, not as high as I'd like, but I'm glad he got on. All right. Amazing guitarist. Rory Gallagher, 12%. Oh boy, the mighty have fallen off of my list. Rory Gallagher was ranked, what was it in that video? I ranked him 7 or 8, maybe 6. I don't know. It was pretty damn high. He was in my top 10 and well into my top 10. But he did make the list, and with only 12% of the vote in his heat. Uh, Number 21, all right, Mark Knopfler. And he just barely edged out Rory Gallagher by 1%. He got 10% of his vote. Now, Mark was a write-in by a lot of you fans, or you original, commenters. Uh, he had a big fan contingency. When you guys, that's how he wound up on the list. But when he was, put up against other guitarists in his heat, he didn't do so well. But it was a ground. What is that? Uh, from the ground off kind of effort from you folks, and he is on the list. He wasn't on my original list, so well done to all of you. Dimebag Daryl made number 20. All right, so he's in the top 20. Dimebag Daryl at 14%. He was tied with Mark Knopfler and Rory Gallagher, I believe, maybe it was even with Stephen Stills, and he came up on top by garnering 20% of the vote. He was the number one. It was a stiff heat even there in the tiebreaker. At number 19, Johnny Winter, way too low on the list, but I'm so glad. I'm so glad. Thank you, folks. Thank you for putting him on this list. I'm so glad he's at least in the top 20. He's a top 10 for me. No further down than number 12. You know, probably hell, put him at number 11. Uh, I don't know. If I'm just off of listening to one of his records, he'd be well into the. Uh, I grew up on him. God, I'm just glad he made the list. Little low for me, but the tribe has spoken. All right. Number 18, Lindsey Buckingham. Now I was worried about Lindsey because at first it didn't seem like he was going to do so well. And actually, he's the one that beat out Johnny Winter. It was a four-way tie after all. And at least he got into the top 20. He's another I'd put in my top 15. Okay. As a matter of fact, Stephen Stills and him would be in my top 15 for sure, just to flesh out to have that acoustic oriented rock guitarist kind of guy in there to make it more balanced. So I'm glad he made it. What's that, darling?
The Archies.
The Archies, yeah. There you go. Oh, they're coming up.
Sugar, sugar.
They're coming. Just take another bite off of Mrs. Toad's cookies. And I'm sure my number one spot will say the Archies, even though they're not a guitar player. They're a real band, right? Okay, good. Okay, so where were we? Lindsey Beck. Okay, 17, far too low on the list. In my top 15, Prince. Okay, but he only got 14% of his heat. He was in a tiebreaker. He got 33% of that vote. It boosted him up a couple of notches. Otherwise, he would have been lower on the list. Number 16, BB King. Okay, if I have one disappointment with this list, it's BB King. And it's not because he's not a great guitarist. He'd be in my top 50 for sure. Not even in my top 30, though. Maybe top 40. Because of what he did, he certainly had. I mean, I love him. Okay. I had a couple of records by him. All right. And as far as feel goes, nobody's got more feel than BB. He can bend one note and get an entire solo out of it, and his vocal guitar, the whole story, who he is and everything. Of course, I understand why he's on this list for that alone. But if I was going to include a king, I would have included Albert King, and Albert King would have been in my top 15. BB wouldn't be in my top 30 for sure. I'd have to think top 40. So that's my little, but I understand how great he is. I can live with it. And if I had to take all of these guys' discography to my fictional desert island, when Kimberly and I can retire in peace, right? Hell, he'd be an absolute welcome addition to what I could play on that island. All right. Okay, next up at number 15, glad to see he got on it. He was having a tough time there for a while.
Stormclop gave you $50.
Stormclop.
Yeah, he was
Stormclop. The dude gives me $50 and I call him Stormclop. Oh, sorry about that, James. All right. Did he leave a message with it, babe?
Let's see. He said,
we'll get back to the list here.
You, brother. And
this is why the tribe is so awesome.
There you go.
I can honestly say that my top 10 is in lockstep with yours, brother. Yeah, because he's seen my videos on it. I think I had a good list, right? But I also realized, I'm kind of a generalized kind of rocking kind of guy, right? And as this channel has grown, can you believe it, folks? I'll get back to this. I know we were on BB King, and I was about to announce 15. I may have started the name, but we'll get back into them. We're up to number 15. But, I've got to say, when I started this channel, before I got that first bump, first by Helene suggesting my video or putting, a little earwick into Wayne over at Soul Train Bro. And by the way, Soul Train Bro is not a soul channel; it's a classic rock channel. All right, so I didn't make that clear last time. I had no idea what kind of ride. I was growing at a strong pace for a beginner. You get 750 in less than 4 months. You're doing something right, right? And I had given myself 3 years to get to my first 1,000. That's how, you know, and you know what? It's based on the fact that it takes your average serious YouTuber 3 years to get their first 1,000 to become monetized. So I didn't have a big head about what I was going to be able to accomplish here when I gave myself that goal. 3 years later, we are now at 43,000. At last count, we are now at 43,640 subscribers. All right. And the channel has grown. So there's a lot of interest in what the the tribe has to say and what they think, besides just me. I kind of laid the groundwork for a couple of years, and then I started including the tribe a little bit more. As a matter of fact, and we're going to get on to 15, and then I'm going to barrel on through. I do want to say this. Uh, it's January and the first part of February that is the slowest time as far as views on my channel. And so I told myself I was going to fully affect the changes of this channel. And it's been driving me wild. So if you guys have been missing, I know I have a promised Black Sabbath video. It was supposed to be out I think I said Monday or Tuesday. And this thing took off. It is coming. I will keep my word, folks. I swear to God, you will get that video. But uh, I've I've wanted the channel. Did you have something to say, man? What's that?
How about Norman Greenbaum?
Oh, I know Norman Greenbaum.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me get back to that, and then we'll get back on the list. I did want to say I've always wanted it to be a channel that's interactive. Now we're doing live streams. I do shorts, I do polls, and I do dedicated videos. There's something for everyone when you come over to my channel. So give this again this video a thumbs up, and then subscribe to the tribe, baby. It's easy. Just hit that subscribe to the tribe button, tap that top bell icon, and you'll be notified of all my future videos. You know what? That almost sounded like I've said that before. Anyway, um, Norman Greenbaum. I know Norman Greenbaum. I'm not great friends with him. But when I was 15, when Spirit in the Sky came out, major fan of the song, he was a local lad from Petaluma, but he had set up a pub-like thingy outfit on 4th Street in Santa Rosa called The Rose. And he, because he was also a chef before he was ever even a rocker, and so he would prep stuff and greet people and everything. So I got to know him. And I was just one of two kind of 15-year-olds that always showed up and always managed to spout out some question just to kind of rub up against him, right? Years later, a matter of fact, it was at his club that I saw a pirated copy back in the day when nobody, for the most part in the United States, had seen Magical Mystery Tour, the Beatles. It was at Norman's club. Years later, I was a restaurant equipment supply um, technician, a salesman for Ritz Foods. And Norman was back working as a chef out on the Russian River. And he worked in several spots over the next year or two that I was working with him. And I would always, have something to say with him. And I'd remind him, and I could tell he didn't remember me from being 15. I was well into my 30s then. All right. So just, but an interesting connection. And I loved that song. And I even did a video on it, on great songs that didn't quite reach. No, was it the one that didn't quite reach number one? It might be one of those famous number two songs. I don't remember. I'll have to review that video. What's that, darling?
Waxed is in the house.
Who?
The Waxed.
Hey, Rob. Well, thanks for dropping by, brother. Rob, of course, from famed days of Rachel's Ghost. Rachel, if you are watching, lurking, I know you are. You couldn't help yourself, right? Yes, you are. Come on, come on. No, but Rob was her mainstay. Literally part of the show. I love Rob, and I've shown up typing in on a couple of his streams. Love what he's doing over there with Norman and the gang, Jim from Record Collector News. So it's good to see you, Rob. Thanks. Royce is in the house. Oh, I just noticed that. I haven't mentioned Royce tonight too much, mainly because. I do so on Sundays because I've run my show in tandem with his. I show up at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and then Royce continues on at 6:30, and it gives me about a half an hour to, brush my teeth and uh, do my hair, Mr. DeMille, and I'm over on his show usually. I'm there more often than not. He's a brother, and he's another channel, folks, that I think each and every one of you should subscribe to. He's, Royce in the House, the channel, Royce in the House, is my official home away from home. So it's good to see you, brother. Good to see you there. Angelo, Ronnie Montrose will never make the top 25 list, but their debut album is still one of my favorites. Are you kidding me, man? I saw Montrose, oh Lord, at Winterland. Ugh, one of my favorite guitarists. One of my favorite guitarists. Okay, so here we go. We were at number 15. You guys voted with to him taking 16% of his heat was Billy Gibbons. Okay, and he was tied for a lower position. He might have only gotten down to about number 18, but when I did my tiebreaker round, he got 65% of the votes. I think that may have been the largest tiebreaker difference. And so it boosted him up a couple of spots. ZZ Top is represented. Next up was Robin Trower. All right. Now he took 17% of his heat. He's at number 14. And yeah, I think that's a fair placement for Robin Trower. Not quite the top 10, especially when you see the top 10. They're getting up there now. We're getting down to the top 10 here. Robin Trower at number 14. As much as I love Robin Trower, I was glad to see Terry Kath slightly edging him out. And that was Terry Kath at number 13. And of course, Terry Kath would have to be at the unlucky number 13, right? With his um, horrible demise, the way it went, I believe a thorough accident, by the way. Wasn't, an S job by any chance, trying to avoid a no word here on YouTube, right? Sad story, truly great guitarist, one of my favorite, and I believe he was in the bottom part of my top 10 when I gave it. I'd have to relook at it, but fairly placed here, I think. Number 13, Tony Iommi. Now, I said, always have said, Tony Iommi, I always call him Mr. Riffmaster, right? And the reason I do so is because, it's his zillions of riffs and everything that flavor the identity of Black Sabbath before you can even hear, Ozzy's voice, before you can even absorb the great playing of Geezer Butler, or before you realize that, what, Bill Ward is actually one of rock's best drummers, by the way. I've been doing a lot of listening to some of the Sabbath stuff lately. As a matter of fact, listening to their first album quite a bit because, as I promised, that's my next dedicated video. I'm going to do it up real big, folks. A fucking masterpiece when you think about it. And I've got a lot to say about that. Okay, so Tony Iommi made the first dozen with Terry Kath making the big Baker's dozen. All right. At 11, missing the top 10 by that much, and he would be in my top 10, Eddie Van Halen. He only performed 29% of his particular heat, but He is one of the top dozen guitar players, according to you, in rock and roll. I would say slightly better than the 11 position, not incredibly beyond that. And the reason probably is, if I'm perfectly honest, I'm not into modal playing a whole lot. I love those first Eddie Van Halen records, anything with David Lee Roth. Okay. There's a sophomoric feel to it. The lyrics are sophomoric. David Lee Roth plays the ham just right. It goes so well with Eddie Van Halen's style of guitar. Now, if I had to pick between who was the better singer, David Lee Roth or Sammy Hagar, I'd choose Sammy Hagar, but not with Van Halen. That's just it. I'm a big Sammy Hagar fan. Speaking of Montrose, ever since I saw him at Winterland, okay. And I went out and I bought that Montrose album, and I just wore it out. Bought another one, wore it out. I didn't have great record players. I had a little box record player. I told you guys one night I ripped the screen off and inserted an American flag in it because that's what you did in those days. It was just, you should have seen the bell bottoms I made. Anyway, so at number 10, we are in the top 10. Who beat out Eddie Van Halen? I got to tell you, I thoroughly agree with it too. Brian May of Queen with 36%, doing a full 7% better at winning his heat, or coming. I think at this point he was second in his heat, and that was what got him to this point. Another guitarist that I saw live at Winterland, right around the time I saw Montrose, right around the time I saw Joe Walsh and Barnstorm. I saw Joe Walsh and Barnstorm. I went out and I got his album, Barnstorm. I saw Montrose, bought their album. Then a year later, bought Paper Money. It wasn't, but the masterpiece was there, and I was a Sammy Hagar fan from that point on. And Queen, I saw at Winterland. A few years later, I saw them actually do because they were touring Queen 2. And so I went out the next day, bought Queen 2, and could not believe my ears. That's my favorite Queen album. I know it's not always on the top of a lot of Queen fans' lists, but that album has it all. Concept, art direction, all right? The idea, you unfold the album, you've got them in black, you turn it around, they're in white with feathers, right? Stories about, the Fairy Fellers masterstroke, right? And the March of the Black Queen, and very light stuff. And you had side white and side black, and the more ominous stuff was on side black, and side white was the more airy stuff. Wonderful, well deserved. Welcome to the top 10, Mr. Brian May, astronomer extraordinaire. Well placed. Number 9, Carlos freaking Santana. I was worried there for a while because he wasn't doing well early in the poll, and then gained a lot of momentum and made the list, made the top 10. Of course, Carlos would be higher on my list. I was doing a lot of supposing on the last live stream I had. And the more I thought about it, I go, yeah, but I got to get Gilmore up in there. But if I did that, then where does Carlos go? And I think I'd have him a slightly higher in the top 10. All right. But I can live with this and shall live with this decision by you fine folks. All right. So at number 8, and, he'd be in my top 15, maybe at number 15. But you guys, man, this guy had a strong showing throughout the poll. Duane Allman of the Allman Brothers Band. Now, don't get me wrong, I love Duane Allman, but there's a lot of guitarists out there, and to get the guys I wanted in the top 10, he just kept getting squeezed. But he was definitely in the top 20 and well into the top 20 for me. But you guys spoke out loud. He was a write-in also. Right. Well, actually, I had him on my original list, but it was down lower. And you guys just made so many comments. That's how he got on that 32, and he did well. He did well the whole time. Okay, at number 7. Oh, what have you done to my Richie Blackmore? Richie Blackmore at number 7. Ah, a travesty of justice. And yet he is in the top 10. I can't complain about that. But Richie Blackmore would be at least number 4 for me. He would have to be. And I'm thinking of renegotiating Clapton to underneath him and putting Hendrix above both of them. To tell you the truth, the more I listen to him, the more what I get. But Richie Blackmore, my God, an eloquent player. You might not like the dude. He's got a temper and a half. He's got an ego, but the man is brilliant at what he did. My favorite Deep Purple albums are with Richie Blackmore. I like Mark II, right? I want to see Ian Gillan, Roger Glover, Ian Pace, John Lord, and Richie Blackmore. That's who I want in my Deep Purple. Now they're far from that these days. Both John Lord and Richie Blackmore being their positions being replaced by two very competent players. I love Equals One. Okay, I thought it was one of the top 3 albums of 2024. I've enjoyed it. I played it a lot of times. I love the music. My only criticism is that you've got where Blackmore and Lord would intertwine with each other and do a dance, and then ooh, Lord would sparkle, and then ooh, a little bit of Blackmore, right? These guys, you get the keyboard set of soloing, and then you get the guitar set of soloing, usually divided by a verse. Okay, boom. So it's a lot more tightly packaged, a little bit more commercial, but that doesn't take away, there's nothing wrong with that. I love good commercial bands, right? I love good pop rock. And this isn't pop rock by any stretch of the imagination, but it does have a rock feel when compared to, say, Mark II of Deep Purple. But a great album. All right, at number 6, another big disappointment for me, actually. Uh, he's my second favorite guitarist of all time. And Jeff Beck is number 6, not even making the top 5. Wow. I was surprised. Where's the love for Jeff Beck? Uh, but you know what? When you think of the guys that beat him here, there's an argument for it. There's an argument for it, with the exception I can see of one. And I've already explained that, and we'll talk about him in a minute. But I've already mentioned him that I might renegotiate who he is. All right. And if you were paying close attention to what I was saying, you know exactly who I'm talking about, right? Okay, so Jeff Beck, okay, so close, yet so far away. The top 5, the top 5 guitarists. Number 5, Jimi Hendrix. Now, I happen to agree with that. Now, I know there are Hendrix fans out there that this is just absolute sacrilege. 30 years ago, I would have been hung in the village square for even saying it. But, and I love Jimi Hendrix. Are you kidding me? I mean, he's one of my top, I'd say, yeah, he'd be right about here, maybe 6, you know, depending on who I have to renegotiate here. But he's well placed here, well done, taking 57% of his heat. All right. That's a full what? 4% more than even Jeff Beck got of his. All right. Next up, number 4, Eric Clapton. And they've got him. He did real well. First one to reach 60s, right? He got 62% of his position done. Now, I was going to do a runoff on these, and then finally the number 3 guitarist, and we're going to get to the top 3 here in a minute, just barely nudged him out at the last minute. So I didn't have to do the tiebreaker I thought I was going to have to do on them. And beating him by 1 percentage point in the number 3 position. And I think very well placed here, concerning that I had to give up a few of my choices. He'd be a little bit lower on this list for me, but not by much. David Gilmour of Pink Floyd. You guys have named him to be the third greatest rock guitarist of classic rock. Congratulations to David. And at number two, this guy surprised the hell out of me. All right, folks. This is the big surprise. And he barely nudged David Gilmour out. He had 62. Stevie Ray wound up with 63 by the time I closed off uh, the poll. And I took screenshots of where everybody was. All right. So I've got proof of all of that and stuff. But at 63%, Stevie Ray Vaughan. All right. Now, Stevie Ray Vaughan, he was like number 7, maybe number 8. It depended. I remember having a conflict of interest between him and Rory Gallagher, right? But always in my top 10, right? And if I've ever spent more time trying to, learn the licks of a single guitarist, it's Stevie Ray Vaughan. All right. He's magnificent, one of my favorite guitarists of all time. And, for me, I do have to say I have to be in the mood for most of his stuff, because he's just like Johnny Winter, right? I have to be in the mood. I want to be in a Roadhouse mood when I'm listening to my Stevie Ray Vaughan. And when I'm in that mood, there's nobody better. He's probably the best Roadhouse blues stanging kind of rock guitar. Here's a little flavor of Hendrix just to kind of let you know I'm not everything. And then when you look at what he did with David Bowie's Let's Dance, an album that's far too underrated. It wasn't back in the day, but it's almost like a lot of Bowie fans are ashamed to admit that the Let's Dance album is a classic masterpiece these days. But you can thank Stevie Ray Vaughan because the guitar on that album is all by him and don't sound a bit like Stevie Ray and Double Trouble or any of that stuff, right? So a master guitar player. But the most thankful feeling I have tonight, folks, more than anything in the universe, is you agree with me that there is only one, and there can only be one, true rock guitar god hero of all time. And you concurred with me by an overwhelming 72% of you. Mr. Jimmy Page of the Yardbirds, later of this little known band, Led Zeppelin, is the number one guitar player that you voted for. And he is so deserving. I have done entire videos on him. If you've, been a part of this channel, you guys all know what I feel about Jimmy Page. So very well deserved, I must say. And I got to tell you, this has been an absolutely insane um, time period for me since my last stream. I don't usually stream on Wednesdays. I've done it once, and if I do an additional stream in the week, it'll be on Wednesdays, and it'll always be at 5. That seems to work for me. But I don't do this every Wednesday, but I do this every Sunday at 5. But I thought, I started this whole mess in my last stream on Sunday, and I go, I can't let this lie for an entire week. And I didn't want to dedicate a whole dedicated video to it because I'm working on a video I've already promised you. So the only way I could handle it was to have a live stream. And I want to thank each and every single one of you. How are we doing? What's the time? What do we got here? Oh, we're going a little overtime. That's fine. That's fine. For showing up and participating in this thing, man. Great results. I couldn't believe how many votes the poll brought in. And there's still people, even after you close down the poll, those polls are still growing, right? People are, well, I want my last say about, Frank Marino, so who knows? Maybe Frank's gone up a percentage point or two since I last closed it down. So I've had a ball all week, but the only way I was going to, carve enough time for me to just get into doing a regular dedicated video for you folks was to go ahead and stream tonight. You know what? I want to check in and see what some of the latest comments are before we close up tonight. Yeah. Did I miss anything? All right. Um, were there any guitarists that weren't on any list at all that you think, whoa, glaring omission and all of that? Deuce is Wild. Good to see you, brother. Harry Mack, EVH. Yes. Uh, Deuce says Jimmy Page is the greatest ever, my favorite musician ever. He's about my favorite too. It's interesting because uh, it's his thumbprint. Zeppelin is so strange because I guess Jimmy would be its central nervous system, if it was a body. And, Bonham would be the heartbeat, the heart and all that goes around that. Uh, you know, or better than that, that would come from Jimmy, the heartbeat, central nervous system, all of that. And Bonham was the soul, Um, Robert Plant was the senses, the mouthpiece, right? The smell. He added, in his lyrics, very flowery lyrics. A lot of people don't get them. I think they're wonderful, right? And then their secret sauce, of course, with John Paul Jones. And Jimmy Page, for me, is the guy as far as guitars. And the only one out of the ones that I would have be number two, would be Jeff Beck. And Jeff Beck is close, but there is a definite notch for Jimmy for me. All right. And I've explained why so many times. Just open up any video I do on Led Zeppelin and I'll get around to it usually. Guys that were there before: Buddy Holly, Jerry Garcia. Thank you, Stephen. Let's see, McElwain. I'm not sure how to pronounce your last name, Stephen. Yeah, Buddy Holly. Yes, absolutely. Jerry Garcia. He was added. He was added. He just didn't make the top 32, but he was actually added by suggestions. Who else is here? Oh, okay. Well, Al Val says Jimmy is great in the studio, maybe not so much live. And that's where I kind of disagree because my concert days go back to when all bands played live and there were lots of mistakes. You'd have your better bands make less mistakes, but there were mistakes, and I like it. And a part of it is his jam ability, and I talked about that. As a matter of fact, I put a 5-minute little section of my last live stream on my regular channel page. So it's a standalone video. And I explained how I feel Jimmy Page and Jimi Hendrix, by the way, I was talking about both of them at the time, would purposely work their way in, to a corner just to see if they could get out. More so Jimmy than Hendrix. Jimmy Page rather than Hendrix, because Hendrix, I said at the time, he's just flying so high, and often he was, and that was his whole high approach to playing guitar, and he'd wind up in a dead end and get out of it every single time. So I like that. So I think he's a great live lead guitarist. I don't like pre-planned solos that can be done note for note, unless you're listening to like prog band, like, yes, it's a part of an almost orchestrational feel, but with your basic rock, anything that's blues based at all, I like a looser approach, just plain and simple. Page Zombie brings up Page and Coverdale, Page and Plant. Oh, okay. Well, there is no doubt that the magic happens with Page and Plant. Okay. However, that album, Coverdale and Page, is a fabulous album. I bought it when it first came out. I played the hell out of it. I was having to go from Santa Rosa to Sacramento, California, because I was just getting licensed. I had to go to my state boards and everything for my nursing license, and long trips, sometimes at wrong times of days. And that thing, oh man, I'd place that on. And it just made my day. It made the trip a whole lot pleasant. So yeah, I agree with you, brother. Awesome. They both have their strengths. David Coverdale I probably liked him with Purple more than any other. When he was in there, especially Burn and Storm. Well, Burn, Stormwatch, and what Come Taste the Band. Awesome, awesome. Uh, let's see. James Stormcock says, LaBelle, hey, his work speaks for itself. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right, James. Uh, Oh, good. Roy says he saw um, Led Zeppelin on IMAX yesterday. I feel a video coming on, Royce. Could it be? Ah, well, congrats on that. I look forward to hearing what you think about it. I'm hearing good things about it, right? And it looks like it will be playing on the 14th at a theater there. And if I do it, of course, I'll cover it. You, but it looks like Royce is going to beat me to that. That's okay as long as one of the channels covers it first. All right, so get to work, Royce. All right, Steve Lukather from Toto was on the list initially. Okay, Catherine, I absolutely put him on the list. He may have actually even been on my original list, wasn't he? I think he might have been, as memory serves. You know, um, let's see, Mick Taylor, virtuoso. I even brought that up. I didn't think that Keith Richards should be uh, on the greatest 25 guitarists uh, list anywhere. And yet Rolling Stone had him like in the top 15, maybe even higher than that in the top 10, which was ludicrous. But I said at the time, now, if you're talking about Mick Taylor, there might be an argument for that. So very good comment, brother. Uh, hey, Johnny, it's good to see you, bro. Adam, thanks. I came in late. Oh, that's okay. That's fine. You can always rewind when we're done, Johnny. You know. Um, let's see. Kevin Hall, Surfing Chronula. Ian LaBelle, same. Oh, IMAX, you saw it as well, Kevin. Huh? Cool. I'm hearing some, how did does anybody know how the interview with John Bonham went? Because we're supposed to get this brand new interview, never released interview with him. Does it add anything to the film? Or was it just kind of like, well, it's nice filler? That's what I want to know. When I go see it, I'll probably shoot a video of me in line, watching, and then me coming out to the truck. All right, here's what I don't know. Uh, I kind of go by the seat of my pants. Let the professional stuff, be handled by Royce. Let's see, who else do we have here? Mark, good to see you. James Watson, always a pleasure, my man. Caitlin, you made it. You made it. I was over on Caitlin's stream earlier today making some smart aleck remarks. She tolerated me well enough, I suppose. But it's always nice to see you, darling. Thank you so much for showing up. Thank you for supporting the channel. All right. Caitlin is a sweetheart. Uh, let's see. Oh my goodness. James, I'm so sorry to hear this.
Storm says there's a tornado coming his way.
I was just going to respond to that, darling.
So we'll say our prayers.
Yeah, I'll read it out loud here. Guys, please keep us in your prayers, of course, James. And I am a praying man. We have had one tornado hit tonight, and we have severe weather right now. I'm so sorry you're going through that, James. We've in the past have had to deal with high winds in this area too. It was about a year ago, and California was practically underwater in the Northern California area. And, electricity goes out, roads get hampered to get any groceries if you weren't, prepared and all of that. And I'm sorry you're going through it. Prayers and thoughts to you both. Let's see. Okay, good one, James. Sorry for the silence. I'll get better at least jabbering while I'm looking down and reading at the same time. James backs up that statement and says, so if I just disappear, I probably had to run. Yeah, no, yeah, I hear you, man. Yeah, are you? Do you live where there's basements and things like that? We don't have a lot of basements in California. Although the house I grew up with in California had a basement, for some reason. Big two-story Victorian home. Wonderful memories there. Okay, Jerry C, Hendricks, Page, Moore, Scotty Moore, yeah. Uh, Malmsteen. Okay, Van Halen, Blackmore, Iommi, Lifeson. Lifeson was in the original list that I put out. He just no traction, brother. Same thing with Marino. I got so many um, comments from people saying, Marino, Marino, and of course, I love that whole story. I love him. I love Mahogany Rush. Um, Short-lived, but still, and yet once I got him on the list, he no traction. Wasn't he in last place? I forget the list I just read, but let's see who else is going through some problems here. Wow. Okay, he's responding to anybody who's going through hard times. All I can say is thoughts and prayers to all of you. If you're here, you're watching. I always want my community in good health, good space. And there's those who'll say thoughts and prayers was a waste of time. Well, that's one way of looking at things. Uh, uh, we all have our own, opinions. Herbert, what can I say? I have another set of opinions, and that's what this channel's all about. We don't have to agree on the druthers of life. Matter of fact, we don't even have to agree on rock and roll, So I always wish the very best for all of you. You right? I don't care what political party you belong to. I don't care what religion or not no, non-religion you believe, right? I don't care about what your spiritual intents are or anything like that. I care about your character, you know the basic rules of being a decent human being. And I happen to know there's a lot of people with a difference of opinion on the world, as Michael would have it if he was Lord and Master, right? And that's what makes the world go round, baby. And so I'm like a gnat fly. I'm in there, that's my whole thing. Everybody, as far as I'm concerned, has 100% right to say their opinion on whatever they want. And of course, this channel, we don't deal with politics. We don't deal with religion. Uh, Not even too much on philosophy, unless it comes out as my homespun stuff based on crap I've read decades ago, maybe. But it's just, I like a nice common sense approach to a channel. I don't want it to be a forum for anything else other than let's just discuss this great thing that happened on planet Earth back in 1955. Some would say with pre-roots earlier than that, and is in danger, currently in danger. It's fastly becoming a dodo bird if we're not careful here. One of the stories we talked about tonight was the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, although the list was improved with a couple of fuck yous right in your face, right? Um, but people, if they have a forum to talk about this, people take note. As this channel grows, more people take note. All right. I've had famous people contact me on this channel because they saw videos on this channel. All right. I had John Fogerty get in touch with me. I had Kenny Loggins' vocal coach and one of the vocal coaches for America's Got Talent get in touch with me. Right. I've talked to Terry Draper. People contact me and say things. I've had people who knew a rock star who said, "Tell him I liked his video," because they were a subscriber, but not the rock star. Right. So as this channel grows, my voice gets bigger, but how I run this channel, it's your voice that gets bigger because I always demur to the tribe. I've proven that tonight, folks. All right. I gave up my list. I put it in your hands, and look what you've done. to my song, ma, you know. Um, but have at it. And that's what I want for this channel. Okay. So a big shout out to each and every one of you, all you fabulous people who are financially supporting this channel. I do want to say this. It's not going to waste, folks. Right now, I also need to get into a microphone, an earplug, a professional earplug that will be monitoring off this mic that I bought through your kind donations and connect it up to the iPad until I can get onto a better platform. So all of this is answering those questions when you do that, right? It all goes, I invest, I'm not making a living off of this by any stretch of the imagination. It would be nice if the channel got there one day and I could actually make a living doing this and just wake up from 6 in the morning till probably 12 at night, producing content for you most days. That would be wonderful. I'd love to be able to do that, you know, but, it's not like the channel doesn't have any kind of, financial reward. It's doing modestly well in that regard. And I appreciate all of you. People go, yeah, it'd be nice to toss Michael something here or something there, but I'm just not financially solvent. I hear that. Been unfinancially solvent many times in my life. All right. I understand that. But you know what? When you watch a commercial before my video goes, yeah, I'll watch that. Or at least I'll let the commercial run while I go get a cup of coffee. Okay. You put a little change in my pocket when you do it. And I appreciate that. And if you don't want to, don't skip the damn thing. It wouldn't matter if I was monetized or not. They're going to run commercials on your channel, whether you're monetized or not. The only difference is when you're monetized, you become a partner and you earn, uh, 70% of whatever money that video gets. YouTube gets their 30%. I hear so did Alan Klein. All right, enough of a protest right there. Anyway, so once again, I want to thank everybody. It looks like we went well. Oh wow, we're over an hour and a half, and that's fine. If the I'll keep talking till I don't want to talk anymore. Obviously, I haven't run out of things to talk about. But seriously, I want to thank each and every one of you for showing up. This was a grand experiment, you know. And if you watch this video before or after, or you want your comments to be permanently registered, rewatch the video and leave comments on what I didn't cover, what you feel about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, what you feel about Don Henley, a guy who was a big time kind of hero of mine early on. And, just over the decades, I liked him less and less. And now I don't have any respect for the guy left anymore. Doesn't mean I don't respect what he accomplished, what he was, where he once was and all of that. I just can't deal with the guy anymore. But maybe you guys are staunch Eagle supporters and Don Henley supporters, and I'm not getting it. Let me know. Just be respectful. That's all I ask. But I don't claim to have the answer. I got a lot of questions, right? I got the answers for me in my personal life, or as close as I'm ever going to figure those answers out, probably. you know I'm bound and determined to keep learning. As I go. Life is school, man. That's what life is all about. you know you either learn or you burn, baby, and that's the way it is. All right, folks, I've had a absolute blast tonight. I appreciate, I've said it so many times, it's ridiculous, for all of you showing up midweek as it is. And for those who have stayed this late, how many do we got? We got 60 watching. You're going to be glad you stayed. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same thing that I did for the bands. You remember that video, that set of polls? Another set of polls, well over 10,000 votes on that one too. All right, I'm going to produce a video that will be much like that video, where it will go through all 25 bands in order, in countdown order. I've just got to find the right music to put to it and everything. Many of you said, I really like it when you occasionally put those out. And so I'll be putting those out for the big things. You know, I usually put maybe 4 or 5, maybe 6 a year, right? So this will be my third one this year. And I usually let it go because as January 15th kind of looms, the channel starts picking up and I get back into full-time mode. But I'm so glad I've had an opportunity blah, 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 to spend January and most of February up to this point, or what February we've accomplished so far, by connecting the channel finally where I've been working to get it. Now I feel like the channel is operating on all 8 cylinders. There's so much to offer you here, and it is a forum. Now, the channel's name is Michael Noland, The Bottom Line. When I stream live, it's Michael Noland, the Tribal Forum. And I hope to see you guys in my very next video. All right, folks, that's going to do it for me. Thank you so much. Thank you for your kind donations. Thank you for your thumbs up. And I'll see you in my next video. Night, folks.
You off